But no, Disney's not. I don't think they're destroying it on purpose.
I just don't think they know what the hell they're doing, and they're like so out of touch that it's at the point where I'm gonna say if Ahsoka bombs, and I don't think it will because it's Dave Filoni, but I've been wrong before. If Ahsoka bombs, I am pretty much done, and I'm just
Yeah.
going to cover George Lucas era of Star Wars. I'll cover some of the games, only the specific things I like, but I'll just like basically go back to what the channel used to be.
Yeah. But if it's like just okay and it also bombs in numbers, that's going to be absolutely horrible for the brand. And I think a lot of us are so disengaged with Star Wars that, like, why would we stick around for more mid, more even good? Like, I think at this point it needs to be great. I don't know.
It's literally 15 minutes of Qui-Gon with like barbecued internals laying there. Probably pierced his lungs too. I mean, his lungs probably weren't working anymore.
Alright, so ladies and gentlemen, we have a video from Star Wars Theory that I want to go over and talk about because this is a big problem. Star Wars Theory is delusional. He is trying to come out and, I think rather aggressively, for what we're talking about here, try to explain away or excuse the obvious and glaring mistakes of the Ahsoka series that people are pointing out. You see, kind of like The Force Awakens, people saw it initially and they're like, wow, this is great. But as they have time to reflect on the absolute poor quality of what we've been presented, they're starting to come around. They're asking questions. Why are the sets so horrible? Why are the costumes so lackluster? Why is the writing shit? Why is the acting shit? Why is Dave Filoni considered to be the savior of Star Wars when he is not very good? He's not. He's not George. Okay? So Star Wars Theory is getting visibly irritated in his video because Star Wars fans are more quickly than The Force Awakens coming around to how shockingly shit this series actually is. These are not the characters that we've known, and he has a plethora of excuses as to why the bad acting and why the inappropriate tone and why these characters have been sucked of any soul or interesting, unique characteristics, and why their costumes and pretty much everything about them is not very good. Now, I understand on some level why Star Wars Theory is doing this, because he has basically put all of his eggs into one basket. He made a video online saying that if the Ahsoka series didn't do well, that he was done with Star Wars. So, if you're at that point, even the most bare minimum garbage will seem like a fine dining meal, and that's what we have here. We have a man who loves Star Wars so much that he is willing to excuse all of the terrible and indefensible mistakes. But I'm not. And I know a lot of you are not. Because for me, I don't look at Star Wars as the bare minimum. I look at it as an exceptional piece of storytelling and craftsmanship, and it is not something that I think is frivolous. I think Star Wars has a certain look. I think the costumes and characters have a certain design. There's a certain visual fidelity that I think is associated with Star Wars. I'm not willing to abandon that to play make-believe and pretend that something that is garbage from Disney, that is known for garbage, is actually good. And I'm not going to run Star Wars Theory down in this video. That's not the point. But when he comes out and starts making excuses and starts talking about, well, Ahsoka has been through all this stuff and goes through the litany of stuff, at no other point in any other series has Ahsoka been as soulless, as vacuous as she is here. And it's not stoicism, by the way, because Ahsoka in Rebels is stoic. But she's also Ahsoka, and she's interesting. And she's got that unique quality about her. The reality is that Star Wars Theory is being delusional here. And if he has a problem with that, or any of you have a problem with it, I will debate you on it any day of the week. I don't think he would debate me. My channel's not big enough for that. But my point is, I would debate him on this anywhere, anytime. Because I think he's dead wrong. I think he's allowing his desire for anything Star Wars to be good to taint his vision of what's happening. He is losing sight of the fact that Star Wars is not the mediocre garbage. It's not this crude matter. It's not this tangible thing that Disney's trying to put it into. Star Wars is so much more. And I will give you my vision for Star Wars, what I think of when I see Star Wars in my head or when I imagine it. I don't see Star Wars as the bland, generic garbage that Disney puts out. I think of stuff like this. Because in terms of tone, in terms of visuals, in terms of Star Wars, in terms of feel, atmosphere, this to me is Star Wars. You know, it's just, there is nothing in this Ahsoka show that comes anywhere close to this, and this is from 2011. Actually, I think this is before 2011. I think this is 2010. They have not been able to replicate this level of quality, and I don't understand why. You say, well, they don't have the budget for it. This is Disney. They bought Star Wars for $4 billion. They have the money to do this, they just don't want to. But when I think of Star Wars, this is what I think of. This level of quality. I mean, look at how stunningly beautiful this is. And that's what I really wanted to emphasize here. Not to run Star Wars theory down, but to explain to him, because he seems to be rather aggressive towards people that disagree with him, and anyone with a brain disagrees with him, because his take is shit. It is pure cope. It is delusion. It is him wanting this to be good to the exclusion of all criticism. And he said something. He said, well, I'm the first to criticize. No, you are not. You are the last to criticize. You tried to pretend that The Force Awakens was good. Do you remember that Star Wars theory? In the beginning, you tried to pretend it's good. You even tried to pretend that The Last Jedi was good. But at a certain point, you gave up, and you stopped trying to pretend, and then you came around to reality. But no, you're not the first person to criticize. You're the last person to criticize. I'm the first person to criticize because I think Star Wars is and should be better. I think that this is the standard to which Star Wars should be. In this 6-minute video, there is more story, more depth, more artistic vision, more badass lightsaber fight than anything that Disney has given us. Anything. And if you want to talk about the Ahsoka series only, you don't want to focus on this, even though, just this one scene of them coming down and looking, this is so much better than what we got in the Ahsoka series in terms of two great Jedi or Sith or dark Jedi or fallen Jedi, whatever you want to call them. This right here is Star Wars. And not because of the lightsaber fight. It's the music, which I'm not playing for copyright reasons, but it's the atmosphere. You understand the story going on here. It's not just a lightsaber fight. It's you get all of the different nuances here. You understand what's at stake. You understand what's going on. They made it perfectly clear. It's cool. This is Star Wars. What Disney is putting out is not Star Wars. This woke femification of Star Wars, where every character is a woman and every character has this terrible costume, this terrible attitude. This is off-putting. Not this. This stuff that we're watching is excellent and amazing. And by the way, it has one of the most badass female Jedi ever. I mean, Satele Shan was the Grand Master of the Jedi Order. So, all of this, Star Wars has never really had women. I mean, literally 10 years ago, 12 years ago at this point, Satele Shan was, one of the main pillars of the Jedi Order. My point here is that the slop that we've gotten in the Ahsoka series, it is exactly that. None of the sets look like this. None of the battles look like this. Nothing looks like this. It doesn't sound like this. There aren't that many different races, and the ones that are so poorly done. I've seen better cosplays at Comic-Con and other events. They put literally no effort into anything. And my point here is actually, if you can't do live action, and they can't, then don't try. Do something like this. Why couldn't they have done the Ahsoka series in this style? With this type of animated stuff where it's not animated like Rebels, and it's not animated like the other series. It's this. Why couldn't they do this? This is Star Wars. This is badass. This is, I mean, just feel. You can feel, like, understand. People say, oh, lightsabers. You can feel the emotion in this scene. I don't even have to play you the audio. Like, it's not just lightsabers clashing about. You get the emotion here, and that's sort of my point. This is what is missing from Star Wars. In their attempt to make all the main characters women, and to emasculate all the male characters, them to put Luke on some island drinking tit milk from a giant space manatee. Kathleen Kennedy has, the Force has femaled the entire franchise. And unfortunately, that comes with a low quality standard that I'm not okay with. And a lot of people aren't okay with it. So Star Wars Theory, if you like the Ahsoka series, if you like it, fine. I'm not here to order 66 your enthusiasm. But the fact that you're getting frustrated because people are pointing out real and obvious flaws that are not excused or explained by the fact that these characters have had a rough life. Because in other instances, they have had the same rough life, have the same horrific situation, but been themselves. These characters are not the characters that we know. They have been changed. They have been altered. You could say, well, it's because they're older. No. It's because the acting is bad, the writing is bad, the direction is bad. I don't know why people treat Dave Filoni like he's some kind of savior. He has saved nothing. People want to say that The Mandalorian is some kind of success. The Mandalorian is a failure because we do not judge based on a season or a couple episodes. We judge based on the whole. And the whole, from my point of view, is you have George's Star Wars, which for me, all 6 movies have their merit. All 6 movies have their place. Well, what about The Phantom Menace? Darth Maul, the double-sided lightsaber, that lightsaber duel with Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi. I mean, that was awesome. For all the faults of the movie, it does add something amazing. You want to talk about Attack of the Clones. Well, what does that have? Well, it has Mace Windu with a purple-ass lightsaber. It's got Count Dooku. I mean, there are things within these movies, even the ones that people don't generally like, that I think are very, very good. And so, my point here is that the new Disney Star Wars movies give us nothing. The new Disney Star Wars shows give us nothing. These are not good. These are not competently done. The sets are shocking. My point in all of this is not to ruin the day of Star Wars Theory or to lambast him too harshly. But I just want to really emphasize the difference between my thinking and his. You see, because he thinks that I'm some person that's never satisfied, and you can't satisfy me. I'm always angry or miserable or something, and my reasons for not liking this are not really valid. That's the implication. He doesn't outright state that, but that's the implication. Whereas I think that his reason for liking the show is not valid. Because you can say, personally, I like the show. That's valid. But to excuse the poor acting, the poor writing, the poor sets, the poor costumes, the shocking lack of interesting and dynamic plot and character development and stories, to excuse all of that and do a video that's a bit aggressive towards Star Wars fans saying, you guys just, it's like, if you don't understand why people are criticizing this, then I'll explain it to you. I'll educate you. But your assumption is wrong. People aren't hating this just because, it's Disney. No, they're hating it because it's bad. It's not good. This series is not good. And understand, I didn't just watch this once. I watched it twice. Because when I watched it for the first time, I thought it was horrible. But I wanted to see what Star Wars Theory thought of it. So I actually did the watch along. And I got his reaction, and his reaction was a 180 difference from me. At the end of it, I wasn't convinced in his point of view. I thought it was a 3 out of 10 show. He rated it 9 out of 10. Do you understand what 9 out of 10 is? 9 out of 10 is almost perfect. So for him, this show was almost perfect. That is indefensible. This show was a messy, visually poor, woke clusterfuck. The characters that we've known and loved are not the same characters, and their age is not the difference. It is the way that they look, the way that they act, it is all of it. And the fact that, Sabine was a beloved character in nearly all of the iterations from all of the different shows. But now people are not liking Sabine. Is that the fault of the Star Wars fans? No, it is the fault of the people that thought that, hey, this woman is older and she's still acting like an immature person that hasn't grown at all. It's like the characters have not developed at all, other than they're now less. They're less interesting. They're less dynamic. They're less themselves. And they've had time to process these losses. But it's like, you don't lose who you are. It's like, it would be like saying, well, Leia suddenly became, stoic and bland because of the destruction of Alderaan. No. Leia still remains who she is. It's like Luke Skywalker. I mean, imagine if we took this. Well, Luke Skywalker lost his father and, all this stuff. So he becomes... So Rian Johnson's version of Luke is more stoic and defeated. Makes perfect sense. He lost his dad, He lost his dad and, Ben turned to the dark side. So then it makes sense that, he would be depressed and stoic and miserable. No, it doesn't. And applying the logic that Star Wars theory uses to justify this shitty show, and the poor writing, and the poor acting, and the poor development, and these characters that are not the characters we know or like, using his logic on Luke, or Jake Skywalker rather, it completely implodes. There is no justification for this. There is no excuse for it. Star Wars theory is wrong. And if he has an issue with that, if he thinks that I'm being overly aggressive, we can debate it. I mean, I'm open anytime. I will be as cordial as you would like. I'm not here to insult you personally. I just think your opinion on this is absolutely dead-ass fucking wrong. Simple as that. And I think that you are stretching in your attempt to define why people don't like this. People don't like it because it's not good. Now, I am perfectly well aware that your audience overwhelmingly likes it. More power to you. 85%. But see, here's the trick here. This was at 86% when I last looked at it. It's another percentage. And what that signifies to me, from my history with Star Wars, is that immediately, knee-jerk, people like it. They're like, I like this. But the more that people have time to think about it, really think about it, the level of low quality, low effort, the bad acting, the bad direction, when they see other arguments like mine, they stop and go, well, wait a minute. Yeah, actually, no, there's some truth to that. And as time goes on, Star Wars theory's opinion of giving it a 9 out of 10 becomes more and more irrelevant. It becomes more and more ridiculous. Embarrassing, even. And that's the same thing that happened with The Force Awakens. People ran out to tell people how great it was. Star Wars is back. All of these giant channels coming out and saying, this is the best thing since Empire. The fact is that this show did nothing exceptional. The hallway massacre scene, we've seen it before. This time it was done even more embarrassingly. Do I even want to bring it up? Do I even want to bring up that scene? where he goes through the hallway. I mean, look at this. First of all, look at the set designs, and then compare them. Yes, we will compare them, but do a comparison to these sets. Do a comparison to this, to these backgrounds. Look at this. Look at these. This is Star Wars. Now you can say, well, the ship is different. Well, have it be unique. Have it be interesting. Having a static white background. I mean, and look at the way that, look at, I mean, you can't defend this. You can't, boom, oh, he moved it from one side to the other. You can't say this is a 9 out of 10. This is the most static looking, boring background with somebody who's, I mean, just, there's nothing. Oh, he moved it one side, and then he moved it to the other, and then he moved it straight up. I'm not trying to be mean here, but I mean, look at this. It's like he's going on a carnival ride. Whee! Just stop, okay? Just stop. It's ridiculous. Star Wars Theory, you know this isn't a 9 out of 10. You know this isn't a good show. You want it to be good so bad that you are not only delusionally upping the score, but now, on top of that, you are getting aggressive needlessly to people that don't like it and have every valid reason not to like it. The acting is bad. The sets are bad. The visuals, the way that the characters look are bad. They're not good. These are not the characters that we knew. And more importantly, not only are these not the characters that we knew, their growth or lack of growth, their stagnant nature where they haven't grown at all is disheartening, and it's just shitty writing. Sabine Wren hasn't grown at all. She's still somebody that will, basically put her own selfish wants and desires before anyone else. I mean, it's boring. These are not characters that have grown, and it's shocking. The show was terrible thus far. Now, could it turn it around? I don't think so. I think history is on my side because the shows progressively get worse. They don't get better. The Mandalorian didn't get better. Book of Boba Fett certainly didn't get better. Obi-Wan Kenobi didn't get better. These shows, these movies, they're terrible because they're not Star Wars. There's no heart or passion in any of this. It's a facade. It's a smokescreen. It's a mask. Star Wars Theory brought up The Walking Dead. Well, basically, what this is somebody wearing a Star Wars skin suit. None of the real essence of Star Wars. Just a facade. Bland backgrounds. Terrible lightsaber choreography. Just shockingly bad effects. The acting, the directing, and by the way, I will reiterate it again, Dave Filoni is garbage. I don't know why people treat him like he's the next savior of Star Wars. He's done nothing to save Star Wars. He's done nothing to save Star Wars. You think because a bunch of years ago he made an interesting character named Ahsoka, or he did good work, in conjunction with other people, that he can single-handedly save this franchise? No, none of these people can, because they're not George. George is the only person that could save Star Wars right now. The only one that could. No one else even comes close. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's my thought on this entire situation. You can feel free to disagree with me. I'm not going to get overly aggressive at you. But yeah, it's my opinion. I think that Star Wars Theory is wrong. I will debate him anytime, anywhere. I'll let him set up the terms. Hell, if he wants, the questions or the style beforehand, I would accommodate that. But I think he's wrong here. Now, I will grant he has way more Star Wars knowledge than I do. But he's putting it to work for the wrong reason. He's putting it to work to excuse the obvious, glaring faults of the show. Oh no, you don't understand. You don't get it. You don't get it. The reason why Ahsoka is being portrayed as this stone-faced, emotionless, bland, like garbage character is because she's been through all this stuff in the past. It's like, yeah, well, she had all that stuff happen before, and she wasn't like that. So what's your excuse? Well, you don't have an excuse. And honestly, your so-called logic folds when you try to apply this to Luke. Because you didn't like what they did to Luke. You didn't like how he was treated. I didn't like how he was treated. But I'm consistent. I don't like how Ahsoka is treated in this. The show is mostly walking, looking, and boring. That's the goddamn reality. I didn't make it. I'm not beholden to it. It's shit. Now, if you admit that it's shit, if you're honest about it now, you're going to save yourself a lot of humiliation because it's only going to get worse. The show is not going to turn around and be some masterpiece. The low effort that we've seen thus far is not going to suddenly, magically, be transformed into something amazing. So, that's my take on this. That's my thoughts. Ladies and gentlemen, if you like my channel, give me a like, give me a comment, give me a subscribe. If you don't like my channel, if you didn't like what I have to say, give me a downvote, give me a negative comment, and don't subscribe. It's up to you. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen. I'll see you next time.